To make some sales, you have to build connections, you have to really understand the customers, you have to understand the partners. I have 13,000 followers now. I really went all in on personal branding and it worked really well. So if you bring a lot of value to people, people would just...
Hey, this is Mike from IntraStars, and today we're very excited to bring you a brand new episode of the Super Connectors podcast in New York. For today's episode, we've got a really special guest, the one and only French Queen of Connections, Marion. Hey Marion, so nice to see you here.
Hi, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Two French-speaking people in New York. No, it's bound to happen. So tell us more, Marion. What does it mean for you to be a super connector?
First of all, when someone told me I was a super connector, I didn't really understand what it meant because it's, coming from France, it's not really something that we used to. I see myself more like a community builder. And I think being a super connector means that you are, you're able to like build a relationship very quickly with people, remember why you're building those connections and then maintain them over time. I think the definition is more about like, you have to be interested in the person rather than trying to be interesting yourself.
That's a good way to put it. So what was your journey to become that? Have you been to lots of networking events? You've built some communities. How do you start making those connections up to a point where you start realizing, oh, maybe I'm a super connector? Like, tell us more about your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in sales and business development. So throughout my career, I worked for a lot of B2B SaaS companies. And my role was to build partnerships and make some sales. So to make some sales, you have to build connections. You have to really understand the customers. You have to understand the partners. You have to find the sweet spot and make sure you can find that magic where both parties understand that it makes sense to work together. And that's what I brought to community building and networking. I moved to New York City 3 years ago and I started to launch a networking group because I just wanted to be more set up in the city and meet other women in tech. And that just completely took off in a matter of weeks. I started to organize panels to demystify hot tech topic in tech every single month, to build partnership with AWS, Microsoft, all those big brands, and the community grew dramatically and drastically. So that's how I became a community builder, super networker, super connector without really knowing I was one. It's like all the people told me that, like, oh, how do you build community? I was like, oh yeah, that's what I do. I didn't realize that.
So when you organize your events and you're building your community, how do you bring more members to join the community? Is it referrals, introductions? Do you go to other people's networking events to recruit more people into your own community?
Yeah, at first I was going to a lot of networking events almost every single day when I moved here because I really wanted to feel set up in the city, better understand the tech ecosystem. So I was inviting people on one-on-one or on LinkedIn to make sure they would come. But very quickly I understood that what really works is the word of mouth. So if you bring a lot of value to people and if you're able to position your events in a way that makes sense, that is really value added, people would just find me like this. They will find the community and then they would, recognize the name and they'll be like, oh yeah, this kind of events is really what I want to go after, because I'm bringing the French touch where I'm pretty direct when I moderate panels. I always tell my speakers, please disagree with each other. I don't want everyone to have the same opinion. It's good to bring different points of views, different angles. I like to pick speakers who have different backgrounds as well, so they can really like learn from each other, confront ideas. So that's really how I'm building it. I also have a newsletter with 6,000 subscribers, so I share a lot of information about the events I'm hosting, but also the other conferences in the space, interesting things I'm reading. I write pieces on AI. And finally, I do a lot of thought leadership on LinkedIn. I have 13,000 followers now. I really went all in on personal branding and it worked really well. So I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to just put yourself up there. It really works.
And so do you do lots of introductions and referrals for startup founders, B2B salespeople? Is that part of your personal brand to help others with great introductions? And do you have a tracking mechanism for that?
So I don't have a tracking mechanism. I do have my own community of female founders, so they get to have introductions to investors and experts in the field. And I also share with the public how to network, because I think there's like a lot of misunderstanding on how to network. It's not about just getting into a room and trying to achieve something and be very transactional. I think this kind of approach doesn't work. I think it's really about like bringing value and building your own credibility for people to find you and then ask for advice.
Yeah, so it's always about building your personal brand and your credibility and your value. So if I go to a networking event, I will always ask people, like, one of the first things is, who could I introduce to you?
Yeah.
So instead of talking about me, it's about
Mhm.
them. Like, how can I help them? Because
Exactly.
then you create that impression that you're a helper. So I think you've got a very similar approach, right? At your events,
Yeah,
it's all about helping
totally.
others.
Yeah, definitely. I think it puts you in a position where you're not just asking for something, which can be something maybe overwhelming for people. You just position yourself as like, yeah, as you're mentioning, a helper, like a thought leader. It just gives you some sort of position of power almost.
So what do you think about a platform like IntroStars, where people can describe their ideal introduction and then really reward introducers to send them loads of referrals and make sure those are tracked over time so the introducer can get rewarded if a deal comes out of it? How do you think that might change the game for people part of your community or people who want to become super connectors, who want to become helpers, who want to elevate their personal brand as a connector?
I think that's brilliant. I think the old tracking system is so all over the place nowadays. I don't have a proper CRM. I just use LinkedIn and my memory, and I have a great memory. So that's great. It's working well like this. But yeah, what you're describing totally makes sense. Again, having worked for almost 15 years in business development, I would have loved to have this kind of platform to find customers, to find partners. And when you make introductions as a super connector or just like as a networker and those connections end up generating business, I think it's only fair that you get some credit out of it.
Yeah, that's true what it is. It's fair compensation, fair reward. So everyone's incentivized to help each other, right?
Yeah.
And it's about that bigger purpose. Can you tell us a bit more about what your bigger purpose is? You have like a personal mission you want to achieve, you want to change the world. Like, tell us more about that.
Well, that's a really big question. I think that my purpose in life is really demystifying things. I'm really passionate about demystifying tech, demystifying hot topics, demystifying entrepreneurship. I think there's a lot of noise today, a lot of people pretending to be experts. It's really hard to really, uncover who is actually an expert, who is actually qualified to talk about some topics. And I'm always very honest about what I know and what I don't know. And I think that's also something that people appreciate in my thought leadership and in what I'm sharing.
So what advice do you have for people who are part of your community, who are literally building their network slowly and surely, and who might want to become helpers and introducers and find their purpose?
It's all about bringing value. It's all about like whenever you listen to someone telling you about the background, and it can be anything, it can be professional, it can be personal, it can be anything as where they spend their last vacation, what type of food they like to eat. So really to focus on the person for what that person is and not just the title, the job title in the company is really my advice. And then make sure that you bring value and you can actually help them. And that can be whatever form. It can be recommending a restaurant or recommending a fun activity to do during the weekends with kids, or it can be going to the networking event with them. So I think that having this overview, like a little bit 360, rather than focusing on just the professional aspects of things, is what really helps building relationship, and which can then end up in building professional relationships along the way.
Absolutely. To be likable, you want to give great recommendations for personal experiences, restaurants, and
Yeah.
whatever experience you want to be, or professional recommendations too.
Mhm.
So it's all about recommendations, right?
Yeah.
Building that trust is being an introducer, a recommender, a curator.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to elevate your personal brand. So great
Yeah.
advice. I love it. So what is your focus right now today? Where can people follow you, join your events, get to know more about Marion?
Yeah, absolutely. So I write a newsletter, as I mentioned,
What's it called?
La Crème de la Stem.
Crème de la Stem. That's a good name. I love it.
Yeah, on Substack. So you can find me on Substack. So lacremdelastem.substack.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I post 3 times a week on average. Sometimes I don't post at all, but most of the time I'm pretty active. So yeah, you can follow me on social as well.
And what kind of networking events do you go to when it's not your own events?
Mhm.
When you go to other people's events, do you have a specific method or system to find those events? Is it only focused on startups or any kind of business? Or other types of events you like to go to?
Yeah, it really depends of my interests. I did a few creator economy events over the past few months because I was interested in that space. Now I'm kind of moving away from it, but I'm really happy I did it because I got to meet so many interesting people that are very creative, that are really good at social. So I could also learn from that. It's a lot of recommendations. And then because I have such a strong thought leadership brand, people just find me. So I get invited to events. So I'm really lucky. I don't have to like do too much work to find events. I just get invited to those.
Yeah, it's a bit of a snowball effect. The more
Mhm.
events you go to, the more people invite you to more events. And it becomes
Exactly.
this snowball where you get invited to so many events, you don't even have to do anything anymore. It just comes in,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's the perfect way.
Well, thank you so much, Marion. Really appreciate your nuggets of knowledge. I really appreciate the conversation. I look forward to finding out more about Crème de la Stem and then going to a lot of your events and building your community. New
Thank you
York.
so much for having me. That was so great.
So thanks so much, Marion. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.